So we're starting this Monday edition of the SportsMax Zone on cricket. The Caribbean is preparing for Australia's trip to this side of the world in the summer, and the sports regional governing body is doing their due diligence in ensuring the host nations are ready for their duties. New executive officer Chris Staring has returned to Jamaica, the land of his birth, for an official visit as the country bids to be the first in the West Indies to host a pink ball test match. He joins us now in the studio to discuss his trip so far. Chris, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. Great to have you here, sir. A lot has been said about the Sabina Park test hosting the Aussies. A key part of it is about the installation of new lights and all of the amenities that will surround staging a pink ball test. Can you say that we are on track, or are we not?
Well, I certainly have a lot of confidence that Jamaica, as a collective, will be able to host the match successfully. We're very excited about the pink ball test here in Jamaica. Australia hasn't been here for 10 years. And I think it's a good omen that the last time we beat Australia in Australia, it was a day-night game.
Yes.
So I'm hoping history repeats itself and Jamaica will play its role.
Yeah, can you talk to us quickly about your contact so far with the new JCA, the Jamaica Cricket Association, under Dr. Donovan Bennett, who took over and he has been announcing a lot of plans, focusing a lot on grassroots cricket and so on, to try to resuscitate the game in Jamaica. I say that against the background that part of the explanation by authorities about Jamaica not bidding for big cricket assignments in the country is that cricket is losing its sting in the country. Do you share that view? And do you see any signs under the JCA's new leadership that things are beginning to change?
Well, one of the things that we definitely have to do is to share the data as to where the sport is going. I would, like most Jamaicans, I would have been very disappointed when we didn't bid to host cricket in T20. And having worked with the Broward County in hosting the T20 there, and just being around the ICC, being around the family of cricket and seeing where it's going in the United States was one of the things that encouraged me to get back in. I wasn't going to see 10 years of my life that had gone into so many stadia and tournaments and so on be wasted, because it's an incredible opportunity. I have been working with and speaking with Dr. Bennett. In fact, Dr. Bennett was one of the people who encouraged me to come back in.
Oh, he was?
Oh, absolutely. He was very, very encouraging. In fact, the first time that I was invited to a cricket match since I left in 2007 was by Dr. Bennett.
Nice.
And that when he became president here. And it was, I guess it might be superficial almost, but it was a sign that, hey, this is somebody who wants to get as many of the resources that are out there back involved with West Indies and Jamaica's cricket. So, listen, the potential of Jamaica in this new world, this new paradigm of cricket, is just incredible. And I think one of the things that disappointed me was really, now that cricket has become this massive global business, the West Indies brand, and Jamaica is a part and parcel of that, was being left behind. And I just didn't want to see that happen. So I've been working with Dr. Bennett. I would have met with him at the recent board meeting in Antigua. We've had several Zoom calls and so on with the operations here, looking at the lights. For instance, we have an entire monitoring and support system in place to make sure that these things are delivered on time. And it's going to take an entire apparatus. It's the government, it's the JCAs, it's the public to come out and support the game. One of the things that has surprised me, Lance, when you ask about cricket in Jamaica, and I would have been one of those who, for instance, maybe a month ago, if you asked me if anybody was watching the West Indies Championship here in Jamaica, I don't have any friends that has watched the live stream. Yet when we get the data, Jamaica is actually leading the way in terms of streaming of these matches. I know, I felt the same way. That look on your face when I saw that. And I really didn't know anybody that was watching Jamaica play these matches. Okay. But the data is quite astounding. You're talking about over 800,000 video views on average per game, and Jamaica is the #1 market. And so I started to ask around in the hotel while I was here who was watching, and out of the 3 people I asked, 2 actually watched the stream, and in fact one of them, a waiter, was able to tell me all the details, and so there's a pulse of life, a very strong pulse of life, and it's now to how do we turn that spark into a flame.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about turning that spark into a flame, you are one of the persons that, put on what Jamaica had called the mound and all of that. And we've heard those stories when we interviewed you before, right, Chris? What I am concerned about is, I went to watch a couple matches at Sabina Park. From the time that I've been here to now, I would say I've noticed a decline in, people coming to the matches and, of course, enjoying. And I think that's probably where you're going when you think the pink ball test, because it's a day-night match. In your capacity, how do you plan to, get the crowds to come out and rally behind the West Indies?
Well, the first start, like the economics of all stadia around the world, the reason why they have lights is because you just have a larger addressable audience, the potential audience of the people have the time at night to go to an event. The other factor is that you can have a variety of entertainment that are at these games. So it's not just the cricket. And one of the things that a lot of criticism took place way back then with the mound, because people didn't quite understand that sometimes you can advertise a cricket match is taking place 100,000 times. If somebody's not interested in cricket,
they're not going to come.
It doesn't matter how many times you advertise. You have to find a way to get them to the game, and that could be the entertainment, musical entertainment. It could be the fact that we're going to offer children for free for the first time. So parents would be encouraged. You're lessening the burden, financial burden of bringing a child to the sport. The fact that it's at night, it gives you a whole new variety of entertainment options, and to make the fan experience in such a manner that they enjoy themselves at cricket. Now, the cricket has also to be good and enjoyable. But the truth is, even if the cricket was good and enjoyable, if nobody is there to see it, then you would have almost wasted that good performance. And so the performance in the field is one aspect, but we have to make sure that the fan experience is such that they will want to come back again, that they will want to learn more about the sport. I think about my own childhood. I was not interested in cricket. My father took me to cricket religiously as a child, and for me it was fun because I got to miss school and I could run up and down the steps of Kingston Club. And so I remember my very first vision of when I even remember that there was a cricket match taking place, because the only association for me with cricket was fun. Yeah. I didn't know the sport, I didn't know what was going on. But I remember playing by the gates at Sabina Park, and there was this incredible roar, and I looked up to see this tall gentleman pushing the gate open with his bat, walking onto the field to this incredibly deafening roar, which was frightening. That's what I remember.
Yeah. And
his collar was turned up. Now, I didn't know at the time who it was, but by deduction, it must have been Gary Sobers.
Yeah.
And so you started to then see what was happening, but I must have been 5 or 6 years old at the time. But those are memories that are burnt into my brain, and so we have to find ways for different age groups, different gender, male, female, young. When I say young, under primary school, high school, teenage, young professionals. And so we have to have different products, different forms of attracting all of these markets to the game.
Yeah, and I know we started talking about Jamaica, but you are the CEO of West Indies Cricket, which means you're going to try to develop cricket across the Caribbean. With the time that you've been in office, how has, those discussions been with, presidents of the other countries? No,
well, I find that everybody's very enthusiastic. Quite frankly, when I left, I did so many things back then. Some of them were very controversial. Some of them were challenged the status quo. Some of them challenged what was taking place. So I was almost, there was a little bit of hesitancy when I went to my first board meeting. But it occurred to me that I was no longer that young challenger that was coming to shake things up. I was now the elder statesman in the room. So it was a surreal moment for me when I, the kind of response that I got and the respect that I got around the room, that people were genuinely looking for answers, looking for solutions, they have their own ideas as well, which is a great thing. So you don't come in with a whole host of new ideas. They have ideas. It's how do we projectize them, how do we, get some of the vision that the president and the vice president have spoken to me about, which are just fantastic ideas. That they have a clear vision as to where they want to take cricket in the region. There's a strategic plan, which I will tell you is as good as any that I've ever been associated with or read for any type of corporation. They have strategic pillars that very structured way and very clear outlook as to where they want to take West Indies cricket. And so it's just about me now coming in, using my experience, my relationships, my network to bring the strategic pillars that they have to life, energizing those strategic pillars and executing them. And, as we say in Jamaica, soup.
You've said that there's a strong support system in place. Just going back to the possibility of having a day-night test at Sabina Park, what does that support system look like from Cricket West Indies to the Jamaica Cricket Association, or just generally the stakeholders in Jamaica in preparation for that test match?
Sure. Well, we have a monitoring process. We have a venue manager that one of them who is very experienced with installation of lights and so on, and who monitors the Jamaica Cricket Association, monitors the project, gets their project timelines, and where they start. If there are any issues that arise, none of it should have shown up yet, but if there are any issues that arises, then we can utilize the resources of Cricket West Indies as well as our network and so on to try and overcome them. The idea, though, you set out with the objective of we're going to have lights. The Australian Cricket Association, the Cricket Australia, they're very supportive of that endeavor because they've also seen the impact that lights would have had on their attendance and so on. And they're very, we have other test matches, of course, leading up to it. So it would be really great if West Indies was to at least coming to that last game in Jamaica, the series tied and all to play for that. From a commercial fan perspective, that would be the perfect scenario. From a purely West Indian scenario, you'd want to be leading 2-0 anyway, so you would love a whitewash. But so we have a monitoring process, and we're regularly in touch with the Jamaica Cricket Association, their project officer, Dr. Man Singh, who is heavily involved as well, Dr. Bennett, and so on.
Is the same type of support / monitoring being provided for Grenada and Barbados, who are hosting the other 2 test matches?
Absolutely. One of the benefits that I recognize, and remember now, I would have been outside of the apparatus of West Indies cricket for the last 17 years. One of the benefits, clearly, the legacy of hosting back in 2007, is the type of structures that they have in place now that, it's just absolutely impressive. This is not the West Indies cricket board that I left 17 years ago. This is now an organization that has grown up, it has matured, it has young professionals, and they're using policies and procedures that we would have used back in 2007, which before 2007 didn't exist in the Caribbean. The fact that we have a venue manager that goes around and inspects the venues, and so on.
And how long has that been in place?
I'll be honest, I don't know.
Okay.
So I was actually surprised to see that, in the planning processes, the integration meetings that were taking place, that I was invited to, of course, as a newbie.
You just know that didn't exist when you were
That did not exist when I was around. In fact, we did, Cricket West Indies now as an organization is as impressive as any corporation I've ever walked into. My onboarding process, the documentation that I would have gotten. Back then, Lance, when I walked into the West Indies Cricket Board, they didn't even have a computer in the office. So it was a totally different scenario that I'm walking into now with professional offices, professionally staffed by group of young professionals are very enthusiastic, and as I said, I feel very almost aged when I walk in. But I have to tell you, there's a side of me that's tickled because you see some of the things that they're doing as repetition and routine that I know never existed before 2007.
Yeah. I'm interested in the genesis of the decision to, I want to say appoint, and I'm not even sure if that's the correct word, Sabina Park to have that day-night test. And I ask that against the background that there are other venues already with the infrastructure, especially the lighting infrastructure, like Bridgetown in Barbados. They hosted a day-night test in 2018. So why Jamaica for this tour? Was it the JCA who pushed for that, or did that come from a CWI standpoint?
I don't know everything that went into that decision. What I will say is that every year we have X number of international matches and 2X number of venues. Okay. And so you always have to, I guess, blend, debate, collate various interests. Primary is always going to be the cricket. Yeah. And there's definitely a view that you have to host, and it's horses for courses. So you're not going to, necessarily want to play India or Sri Lanka if they have a very strong spinning attack on a spinner's wicket. Yeah. You would have seen what Pakistan did to us recently on that tour, where the ball was turning at right angles from ball one and new ball.
Although it backfired.
It backfired, but the point is there's always a strategy. In terms of your venue selection and so on. So Jamaica would have played a role in the type of wicket we would have wanted to play Australia, for sure. Commercially, again, Jamaica is a venue that, both from a cricket development perspective and commercial perspective, we need to foster and develop. It's half of the population of the Caribbean. And certainly the last few test matches at Sabina Park, the results have been very poor when it comes to attendance. And so if we're going to do it in Jamaica, we're going to have to try and do something special to bring back the crowds.
Yeah, very much the case. And also, is it true that the Australians are likely to send a delegation here to sort of track the progress of
They already have. They just left.
Oh, they did?
Oh, yes.
How did that go?
Yes, we're on track. They're satisfied. They're going around the Caribbean. Both the Players Association and Australia, Cricket Australia will again send somebody again closer to the time and to all the venues. And, we're happy to host them. We have nothing, we're in fact very proud of our venues now. I can tell you what we have now is second to none in the world. So we have great cricket venues.
Yeah. A tough question here for you, Chris, because I've been listening to you over the past 5 to 6 minutes or so, and I'm hearing these glowing assessments of the West Indies cricket West Indies operation and function. And a viewer may be saying, well, Chris is now the CEO of CWI, so he has to say these things. Maybe 5 years ago, when he was not in the system, he would be saying the opposite. How do you respond to a viewer who would feel that way?
Well, yes, because I was outside of cricket. I might have said that because you don't know what's happening inside of cricket. I was absolutely shocked when I walked into the offices that this was not the institution that I left. We all, because of the passion of sport and the fact that we love West Indies cricket, we're all critical. I enjoyed, in fact, cursing selectors for their picks. I mean, that's part of the fun of sport.
Fun.
Exactly, absolutely.
The selectors don't think it's fun.
Well, that's part and parcel of being a selector. You're never going to satisfy anybody in the Caribbean. What's almost laughable, when you go to Jamaica, every Jamaican feels that they're hard done by the selectors.
Yes.
And that's the same feeling in every single country you go to in the Caribbean. Every country is hard done by. But, to me, those things are just part and parcel of the passion that still exists for West Indies cricket. We all still want to see West Indies cricket do well. So if you said yes 5, 6 years ago, I was a fan like everybody else. And as a fan, you have that right to criticize and so on. When you're an administrator and you're inside the belly of the beast, you have to recognize the good things. It doesn't mean that the organization is perfect. Obviously, it is not. No organization is. And what I'm going to try and do is to add my input into it to better those areas that need betterment and to try and eliminate the mistakes. But I'm not going to be perfect either. And in fact, with sport, the nature of sport, you can have the best plan. You go on the field and something happens, or somebody slips, and you can lose a game. It's the same with the administration, and you know, you can have the best laid plan for a match and so on, and organization and so on, and things go wrong.
Yeah, we're out of time, Chris, but I want you to respond to this one question before you go, because for decades, West Indies cricket has blamed a lack of financial investment and weak commercial operations for the decline of West Indies cricket. Is there anything that you can say that can give some encouragement to any plan to attract and invite more financial investment pumped into the regional game so that the West Indies can't use that as an excuse to say, boy, the money isn't there and, you know, we can't compete with the Englands and Indias and Australias of this world because of that?
So the commercial gap between ourselves and the major cricketing countries is mammoth. There's no question about that. It's not an excuse, it's a reality. There's a reason why, you know, a Cavalier will struggle to play against an Arsenal because of the resources that are available to an Arsenal versus a Cavalier. You know, there's not rocket science. And that commercial gap, when I joined West Indies Cricket Board, commercial gap was about 200 million US a year. Commercial revenues. 200
million US.
That's 18 years ago, 17 years ago.
Yeah.
When the commercial gap with India today is 3 billion a year.
3 billion US.
So, you know, it's not something that that gap is not going to go away. We're going to try our best, certainly, at ICC to train, to lobby, to continue to lobby, to change the financial model, which is absolutely needed. And I think more and more people are beginning to recognize that. But what we have that the rest of the world, I'm convinced, does not have is our athletic quotient. We just produce an incredible amount of athletes, male and female, that, you know, you see what they do when they go into these international leagues and how we perform at track and so on. So what we're going to try and do is to maximize our athletic quotient, to make sure that we're really capturing the kind of athletes that exist all across the Caribbean, pull them into the sport, which means a retooling of our product pipeline to ensure that we do capture as many of the athletes that are there that are being wasted. Commercial resources, I will also tackle. That's a clear mandate for me. But also national resources and finding ways to make sure that nationally the resources are being put into our schools, etc., that can help this product pipeline along the way. I think, and the board and the president, they're all convinced that one of those avenues is the fact that cricket has now become an Olympic sport, or will go become an Olympic sport very shortly. And so that, you know, it's not a short-term fix, but if you see what the glow and pull and draw of the Olympics has done for Jamaica's track and field, we want to try and replicate that for Jamaica's cricket, for Barbadian cricket, for St. Lucian cricket, and so on. Yeah. So there's a lot of plans. Cricket in the Americas, I can tell you, is growing leaps and bounds. Which, I mean, a statistic came across my desk the other day, which kind of floored me. My wife being Brazilian, I dropped it on her. You know how many registered cricketers in Brazil now? 72,000.
In Brazil?
In Brazil. Well, they've just gotten a whole pile of funding because of the Olympics and so on. Now imagine Jamaica, Barbados, St. Lucia playing off against Brazil for a spot to the Olympic Games. You can see the future.
Sounds good. All right, Chris, thanks for dropping by here on the SportsMax Zone. We wish you the best and a lot of success in your tenure as Cricket West Indies CEO. We know that there's a lot of work to be done, and the fans are waiting for it.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.